In Jude the Obscure, Thomas Hardy describes the lovely old Dorset town of Shaftesbury as that mountain town. And he goes on, this ancient British Palador was, and is, in itself a city of a dream.
And let the wood season, then make the hurdles this time of the year. But now they don't seem to bother about that so much.
And how old's the stuff you're cutting?
At the moment, it's about 10 years old, I think.
And it'll be 10 years before you can harvest it again?
That's right, yeah.
And what sort of lifespan have the hurdles themselves got?
I should imagine about 7, 8 years. Some last a little longer. All depends where they're put up. Years ago, when I left school, I made a lot of sheep hurdles, which kept us busy all through the winter. But these garden hurdles, people are more inclined to buy them in the spring and early summer, rather than all the year round. I learnt it from my father when I was about 9, I believe.
And how about him? Where did he pick it up
from? His father. You know, goes on. I think it goes back 4 generations that I know of. I suppose it's a job you get used to. I've been in the family for a long time. I quite enjoy it. Time's your own. And it's not quite so pleasant in the winter. Some of the tools there are my grandfather's. You actually split the stick right down through the middle. If it's done properly, you can see what they call the middle of the grain in the wood. In some cases, you've got to chop through the knot, but usually they are split down through some of the crookeder sticks. You've got to pick out different sized wood for different parts of the hurdle. For instance, when you start the hurdle, they're called round rods. The split ones are called long rods, and then when you get them up to the top, you use binders and spur rods, which are split. There's an old saying years ago, my grandfather used to tell me, you always chop away from yourself, never towards you. Really, it's a good bit of advice because it saves you getting quite a few nasty cuts.
This is not only Thomas Hardy country, it's also the territory of that grand old Dorset writer and songsmith, William Barnes. His songs are kept stirringly alive today by Tim Laycock and the Hambledon Hopstep Band, who performed his lullaby on the lovely walkway beside the ruins of the ancient abbey at Shaftesbury.
Oh, the rook's nest, a rock on the treetop where few foes can stand, and the Mortons is high and is deep in the steep cliff of sand. But thou lovest hidden where footsteps may come to thy bed, as far
William Barnes was born near Sturminster, which is about 5 miles from here, and he grew up in this area that we all live in, and all the poems that he wrote are written about this part of the world and the characters that lived here 150 years ago. It's a lovely, peaceful town, I think, Shaftesbury. And the area, although it looks empty and very green and rural, there's actually a lot going on in the villages and the village halls, a lot of dances and music. You can stand up here in Shaftesbury, particularly at evening, and look out over the vale when it's a bit misty towards sunset, and it must look very similar to what Barnes saw.
George Anstey's baker shop is a popular meeting place for the citizens of Shaftesbury. His bakery, just up the road, produces bread and cakes for hungry people across Dorset and Wiltshire. Baking has been in the Anstey blood for generations, and George is something of an institution in Shaftesbury.
This is the 4th generation of our family in baking, which was started originally by my grandmother. And now my son-in-law has now come in with us. We do a wide range of white, particularly wholemeal, crack wheat, which is the bran type of breads, and also additive-free. We have gradually developed this over the years, and we find this brings in a large number of people from quite a few miles away, and we feel this helps Shaftesbury with shopping generally. On both Fridays and Saturdays, our Shaftesbury shop alone gets rid of over 1,000 loaves. As my father, who taught us the trade, has always said, you have to live with it. And it's the attention to detail, which we all feel is what makes quality. I don't start as early as I used to. I get up about 5:30 now, and then about 3 o'clock on a Saturday. But my staff, they start at 4 o'clock. I think the trend all over the country is people are going back to the old-fashioned type of produced bread and not the factory type. And I think this is the secret. Bakers everywhere are finding the same. People are looking for something distinctive and different from mass-produced bread.
There's plenty of work for vets in the Shaftesbury area, and Dick Hiscock, who was born locally, is part of a thriving local practice. Dick is busy with nearby farmers and with the citizens of his hometown and their pets.
Years ago, when I came down here from Northumberland, it was about 10% small animal work and 90% agricultural practice. But the pattern over the years has changed, and now we have about 40% small animal work, and the rest is dairy and farm practice. Although there's an increasing number of sheep, we have quite a number of flocks, quite large flocks in the practice. If you obviously keep an animal, you must have some respect for its feelings and its dignity. It looks like a viral, contagious pustular a viral thing, just very slight. Cause them to rub a little bit. How long have you had the owl, Mrs. Carr?
About 2 months now.
2 months.
Yeah.
And the wing was actually broken and splintered when you
Already
got
before
it.
I had 'em,
We
yeah.
get quite a few owls and birds which have been damaged on the road brought in, and we do what we can for them. Some of them are beyond repair and obviously had to be painlessly put to sleep, but we do in fact do some jobs on them occasionally, mending bones and wings and so on.
Yeah,
Undignified position, hasn't it?
got quite a
Now this dog is going to New Zealand, isn't it, Mrs. Horner?
That's right.
It requires a rabies vaccination.
Yes,
Properly.
amongst others.
It very often is a question of treating both owners and pets. Primarily the pet, of course, that, with due respect to the owner's feelings and sensitivity. Well, the thing that always amazes me is that the more unlikely the pet, or the more unruly the pet, the more attached the owner appears to be to it. Go and sleep
done?
it off.
That's a good boy. That wasn't too bad, was it? Hello, Jim. How are you today?
Oh, well enough. It's nice to have some fine weather, actually, isn't it?
It is good, isn't it?
The cheese shop in Shaftesbury offers a spectacular choice of cheeses from across the world, but pride of place is given to Dorset Blue Vinny, the great cheese of the county. At Stock Gaylard, Mike Davies is reckoned to be the only man left producing this delicacy. With the skilled help of his cheesemaker, Priscilla, he's now turning out half a ton a week.
Dorset has a special magic, I think. It's very close to the sea, of which I enjoy. And there are so many valleys in Dorset, and every valley seems to hold a new mystery. It's a lovely county. We are fortunate to have Priscilla, our cheesemaker, who in fact I trained 4 years ago when we started. She being a local farmer's daughter who had a job just up the road, and she was made redundant, and she came on for us, and she has been a great stalwart in the success of our business. Having been trained as a cheesemaker, I always wanted to get back to cheesemaking. It always fascinated me, and I was approached by a friend who said, "You realise that nobody is in fact making Dorset Blue Vinny at the moment. Why don't you have a go?" And that's just what we did. The rate of success of making Dorset Blue Vinny was very low, and I think it went out of favour purely and simply because of that. You hear all sorts of tales about how they used to try and make it go blue, storing it on wet flagstones covered by damp Hessian bags, siting the cheese room near a dung heap, swinging old horse leathers, mouldy old horse leathers in the cheese room, all of which was really not much good in the end.
How does the penicillin get around to make those blue veins?
Well, it is helped by putting a wire rod in after a month, which lets the air get through it, and that produces the even bluing.
And how about the yellow crusty coat? I'm unfamiliar with that sort of thing on Stiltons. You put some sort of paste on it?
Yes, we put just flour and water mixed up and spread on the cheeses.
And how long does it stay maturing?
Well, about 3 months.
And then it's ready for market?
Yes, yes. I enjoy it.
How about milk?
No, definitely, I don't like milk.
The Hambledon Hopstep Band's Dorsetshire hornpipe, accompanied by the words of Thomas Hardy, is probably the most fitting way to say goodbye to this glorious part of England. In Tess of the D'Urbervilles, Hardy describes the valley below Shaftesbury. The fields are mere paddocks, so reduced that from this height their hedgerows appear a network of dark green threads overspreading the paler green of the grass. The atmosphere beneath is languorous and is so tinged with azure that what artists call the middle distance partakes also of that hue, while the horizon beyond is of the deepest ultramarine. Arable lands are few and limited. With but slight exceptions, the prospect is a broad, rich mass of grass and trees, mantling minor hills and dales.